Hey guys, Shawn here for the next video here. Trying to come at you regularly, like I said before, but I think I kind of settled on a name for the Mondays is Monday Mastery rather than Motivation Monday. Why? Because I think it's important to. There's so much more than motivation. Motivation is temporary. Mastery is it's you could kind of say it's permanent in one sense, although it never really ends. So really, we can't strive for perfection. It's unattainable, but we can strive for mastery. Mastery over our circumstances, our actions, our emotions, and ourself. And so that's what I'm calling it. So anyway, welcome to Monday Mastery. Whether you're on here live, whether you're watching the video on YouTube, wherever you are watching this. If you are on here, you can say hi, drop a comment, your name, where you're from, whatever, question. If you're watching the replay, do the same thing and I'll get back to you. So there's a lot going on right now. Around the world, we're in this, crisis. The coronavirus, everything is going on with that. All the ways that things are being shut down, the quarantines, etc., etc. So, I really was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, and they're all actually kind of related. On the weekend, so I'm just gonna share a couple things here, and I'm gonna get into another perspective, something you can think about and something you can contemplate when you consider the coronavirus and the outbreak and the crisis that we're facing today, collectively and individually. So first and foremost, this past weekend was phenomenal for me. I had two really, really magical days. I actually unplugged pretty much altogether from social media, from electronics. Saturday, I spent the day with my kids. First and foremost, I had a wonderful Muay Thai training day for a couple hours in the morning with my son. Just kind of really getting back into the routine there as we prepare for the next fight camp. And then spent all an afternoon with all three kids. We went axe throwing, had a wonderful time, just so much fun. It just, honestly, it was like the highlight of the last few weeks for me. So beautiful day, and then just kind of chilled out for the evening. Sunday, it was just me and my dog. We have two dogs as a family, but the boy dogs come to live with me. And so we're out, for numerous walks during the day. He's adjusted to apartment life, but I have to make sure he gets his exercise, and it helps me too, clears my mind. And once a week we go out for a hike. And so yesterday he and I went up into the mountains, just beautiful, good workout, beautiful views, wonderful day. It was pretty chilly, but just an incredible time. He had a blast, I had a blast. So it was really, for me, it was a perfect weekend. And why do I bring that up? Well, actually, sorry, one more point was I also got to engage in one of my absolute passions, which is writing. And I got to write in an art. If you've been following me for a while, Muay Thai is another one. But I got paid to do some content writing for a website, and it was just thrilling for me as well. It just absolutely lights me up. When I get going, I just kind of keep going, kind of like when I'm talking. But it's something that I've always excelled at, and it's one of my number one passions. So here I am, having this incredible weekend and realizing how important it is to focus on the things that fill us up. Focus on the things that make us feel grounded and safe and strong. That help us be present for life, that help us feel alive. Okay, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So the coronavirus, first off, for anyone who is directly affected, who is in any way suffering, my heart goes out to you. It can be a very scary thing, especially when we're facing the unknown like this. A lot of people are certainly at risk. There's a certain portion of the population, and I really encourage everyone to stay safe. Really, really important. And there's a couple aspects I want to kind of look at, because some people, there's a portion of society that is nonchalant not a big deal. They're not really giving it too much attention. There's people that are in the middle, that are aware, doing what they need to, but also not investing too heavily in it. And there's some people that are very, very afraid. Sometimes, like I say, rightfully so, if they're at risk, certainly. But there's also a lot of what we can call psychological fear. And that's really what I want to address right now today for you guys. In my practice, one of the areas that I really work on a lot with people, it's kind of like almost like a niche for me, is overcoming anxiety, stress, worry, all forms of fear. So learning how to overcome these things, especially when they've been long-standing in a person's life, including panic attacks and all that kind of stuff. And on a worldwide scale right now, we're seeing a lot of that. And so what I want to do today is actually give you a different perspective and a couple things you can do to work with and overcome any fear that might be coming out for you. No, first off, that it's it is pretty normal and natural to have some come up. So if you do, you're certainly not alone. But there are things you can do to overcome it and not just prevail, but thrive even as you're quarantined, whatever your situation might be. Okay. So one of the ways that a perspective on it all that I'd like to share is that again, if you've been following me for any time, I've been a lifelong martial artist. I've been doing training and teaching martial arts for over 30 years. My main martial art, the martial art that I'm most passionate about, is Muay Thai. Considered one of the most violent martial arts in the world, and in many ways it is, in terms of the actual fighting aspect. Now, there's lots of reasons to train Muay Thai, to train martial arts: confidence, fitness, camaraderie, all kinds of things, centeredness. And one aspect that we can't deny, physically speaking, we're training to be violent if we ever need to be. If we ever have to protect ourselves or our loved ones, we're trained to have an advantage at the very minimum. There's no guarantee, of course, because life doesn't work that way, but by physically training and mentally training, preparing for violence should it arise, then we're ready to do that. We're ready to do what's needed to survive. Okay? And this is the mentality that most martial artists take. Now, you could train for years, for instance, and statistically, you're never going to find yourself in a confrontation. That's just the reality. However, if you were operating from more of a fear-based mentality, you could walk down the street every day and be worried somebody's going to jump you from around the corner. So you could live in a state of fear and panic and so on and so forth. So yeah, you're physically prepared, but your focus is so much on what could happen, what could go wrong, that it kind of robs you of enjoying life as it is. So the idea behind martial art training is to be as prepared as physically, mentally, emotionally as possible for a confrontation, so that if it happens, you have your best chance possible of surviving it. But also to understand that the likelihood of it happening for most of us is not that high. So when it comes to the coronavirus, I would encourage people, if you're watching this or if you want to share this out, is to adopt the same sort of mentality. Really is being as prepared as possible. Being informed, and not just listen to any opinion, but being as actually informed as possible. Taking the precautionary steps that we're advised to take. So self-quarantine to a degree, the hand washing, all these kinds of things. But also be very, very diligent not to let your mind and then your emotions consume you. So what I mean by that is psychological fear is just that. It's psychological. It's not when our life is physically, presently in danger. There's no actual threat in our current environment. Okay? So for most of us, like I said, there's certainly a lot of people, there's a portion of society that is at risk. We're all at risk, but some more than others. And so we want to be prepared, but we don't want to spend our day worrying and obsessing over what could happen. And yet, for a lot of people, this is what, for most of us actually, in different circumstances, this is what our mind does. We obsess, we think, what if, what if, what if, what if? You know, I've worked with a lot of people over the years who are self-proclaimed worriers. They actually believe that if they don't worry, then you know they have no chance of staving off some horrible misfortune in the future. Yet the reality is when you think about what could happen, so proper preparation prevents poor performance. I'm all about that. Very, very important. We have to be prepared. But if we spend so much of our time obsessing and worrying and what ifing, we will feel so much anxiety, so much worry, so much stress that we're actually not available for right now, which is really our only moment of power. You know, if something did happen, we don't bring our best self to the game. We don't bring our best self to the circumstance. You know, when you think about the future, well, here's a really easy way to think about it. When you think about the past, you replay the past in your mind, for instance, good or bad. Is that past presently happening? And the answer is no, it's not. It's in our mind. True or false? Right? You guys, if you're with me, you say something, you can agree or disagree. But likewise, when you think about the future, when you plan for the future, which is still important when you set goals, that's all important. I'm not saying it's not. But when we obsess on it, or even when we just think about it, when we plan for it, when we think about the future, is that future presently here? And the obvious answer is no, it's not. Right? And so that future, good, bad, or ugly, hasn't arrived yet. When it does arrive, when does it arrive? Well, it arrives now. Okay? So we plan, we prepare, and then we bring our focus back to here and now. That's it. And so, you know, in Muay Thai, not only is it about, you know, you train and train and train and prepare for a ring fight, let's say, or a martial arts for self-defense, either way. You do everything you possibly can to get ready. There's also another aspect that I should share. You know, there's a term called cool heart. And the idea that when you're in the ring, for instance, you are there and you give it everything you've got. It's a tremendously challenging thing to undertake. But when you're there, you develop what's called a cool heart, where you've learned to not show that you're tired or hurt or afraid. Not to suppress it, but you've actually learned to combat it. You've learned to overcome it. And it's called cool heart. In other words, you've learned how to be so fully present that these things don't take you over. And that right there, we have two things to survive any crisis. Number one is be as prepared as possible without obsessing. But number two, learn how to change your point of intellectual and emotional reference. So to help you, I'm going to give you 3 questions. I've shared these ones before, but it just kind of popped into my head. Number one, any moment, especially when you're feeling any sort of fear, whether it's worry, stress, anxiety, whatever, complacency even is a form of fear, ask yourself, in this moment, what am I focused on? Where's my attention going? So what am I focused on? It's the first thing you can ask yourself. Second thing, once you can determine where your focus is, then you ask yourself, what meaning am I bringing to this situation? Or what meaning am I creating for myself? In other words, your focus might be on, I don't know, something that's, let's just use money. So your focus could be on, wondering where a paycheck is coming, whether it's coming or not, okay? And so your focus is on, oh my God, is it coming? Maybe the meaning that you end up creating in that process is that there's not going to be enough. I won't be able to pay my bills. Now, neither one is actually factual at this point. It just hasn't arrived yet, this paycheck, right? Or this payment or whatever it is. So focus. What am I focused on? Where am I placing my attention right now? And what meaning am I creating or bringing to the situation? You know, in Zen, there's a great saying, and they say, the only Zen you find on a mountaintop is the Zen you bring with you. So you see, this is our point of power. Our point of power is to bring it back to right here, right now. This moment is the only moment we actually have. And you have kind of three options in this moment. You could, if you don't like what's happening presently in your circumstance right now, we're not talking about what could happen 5 minutes from now or what did happen, but right now. There's kind of three options. You can remove yourself from the situation, potentially. You can change the situation, or you can accept that it is what it is until you can make a change or remove yourself. Pleasant or unpleasant. So again, first question, what am I focused on? Second question, what meaning am I creating? Third question, very, very important, what paths of action are available to me? In other words, what can I do right now? Not what do I wish I could do or what can I do in the future, but right now, this moment, what can I do? Those three questions, you guys, are absolutely empowering if you can ask them on a regular basis. They'll take you right out of that worry mind, right out of that fear mind, right out of that anxiety, and put you in a place of real power. So I encourage you guys to ask that on a regular basis throughout the day right now, as we face this collectively. And to keep in mind, some people really truly are at risk. Some people are afraid. We need to support each other. We need to come together. And it starts, we can really be there for other people if we can get ourselves out of our own way by asking powerful questions instead of fear-based questions like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do, right? No, what am I focused on? What meaning am I bringing to this situation? And what paths of action are available to me right now, this moment? Another part you can do, and I'll just introduce it to you really quick. Sometimes that anxiety as an emotion can really start to take over. So a great practice that you can practice anytime throughout the day is, I call it heart breathing or resonant breathing. Some people might have heard of this. If you've worked with me before, you might have done it. But basically, it's taking a slower, deeper breath, and I usually say to a count of 6. So you breathe in for a count of 6, and then immediately, without pausing, so you don't pause at the top, but you breathe out again for a count of 6, and immediately breathe in. So there's no pause at the top or the bottom of the breath. So you're not waiting. So it's this consistent breathing, okay? Just very slow. So count, breathe in and count to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you keep doing this, for a minute or 2, or 5, or 10, however long you want to stay with it. But what I've personally found dealing with anxiety is that if I practice that when I'm feeling anxiety come on, and I do practice it quite a bit, I practice it anyway, because it helps me I find that for me, it helps me be very, very present if I practice resonant breathing. It will reduce anxiety very, very quickly. You might be feeling it like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. All of a sudden, it's now like a 3, 4 out of 10. Just by doing, maybe 10 or a dozen or whatever resonant breaths that way. Very conscious, very, very present with the breath. So you have 2 practices. You can ask those 3 questions. What am I focused on? What meaning am I bringing to the situation? And what can I do right now? And you have the practice of the resonant breathing or the heart breathing to essentially reconnect the circuitry between your brain and your heart to get you out of that fight, flight, or freeze response and bring you back to a more whole brain response where you can access novel ideas, intuition, etc., etc. So with that, you guys, this is Monday Mastery. Any questions, any comments, anything at all, or if you would like some help with some of this, if you're feeling that fear, that anxiety, or that stress, or that worry, I'm happy to help. In the comments section, you can see ways to get a hold of me. So I'm here if you guys need it. Anyway, hope you're having a great Monday as a whole, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Cheers.